how technology companies and founders have actually found complementary qualities with co-founders and brought in different kinds of skill sets. There is no ego. I believe that to build a great fashion company, you need to have both a passion for the consumer and a passion for the product. If you don't understand the cultural nuances and don't continue to build and understand around that, it's very difficult to really build something formidable and long term. If you look at companies around the world which have really built a global platform, I think they are thinking 50 years, 100 years hence. And I think that is something which is really missing with a very short-term view locally. If you're not embedded into the cultural movement which is happening across digital cultural movement, across music, you're not passionate about what is happening on retail, technology, you need to be completely passionate. You cannot fake it. The mindset has to change. We will get that opportunity. I think the talent is going to be ready. We will have a fantastic ecosystem. But we need that passion to really feel the consumer, feel the business, passion for product, passion for retail, technology, and passion to get the best talent.
Thanks a lot. I think Amita forced me to come and do this keynote. I was really enjoying the previous panel discussion, and honestly, I have not much to share, even though it's an honor to address this group of retailers and mostly friends who I've worked with. Many of you here I've worked with through my career. So what I told Amitabh is that I'm not going to give too much of any gyan on retail or fashion or anything. I'll just share a part of my story. And, probably I think that is something which will be interesting. So as Anish mentioned that I started off in Proline. And my journey has been pretty interesting in terms of, I think it also mirrors the growth of fashion and retail in the country. 1990s when the country opened up to, foreign investment, and I think we still had the archaic FDI rules and laws, and I think the first few brands came into the country in 1993, 94. I think at that point in time, Levi's was launching in the country. I think we had Benetton. Some of the early brands came in. And my story, I think that time, National Institute of Fashion Technology was a premier institute and in fashion, and was really was being talked about as an institute which will feed into the sunrise industry. Textile and apparel was a sunrise industry then. And 1995, I actually passed out. Incidentally, final job interview was with Levi's. They were launching in the country in 1995, and they were looking at hiring a management trainee for merchandising. I was in the final two. In the final round of interview, got rejected by Levi's and therefore landed up without a job from NIFT. So that was an interesting start. And finally, I went to Bangalore, stayed there for 3 months. Rajiv Batra had put up Pro Apparel as a factory which was feeding to Proline. And there was a merchant's role to design T-shirt graphics for tennis, for the tennis line, and also to run a T-shirt factory in Tirupur. So I was running some export orders and running the design studio, learned Adobe and other things, and that's how I started my career. And as I'll borrow from Steve Jobs' Stanford University graduation commencement speech on how you can join the dots backwards. So I would always think, as I was working in the factory floor, packing cartons, trying to see whether the mix of the paint which is used and the pigments which is used on T-shirts, and sitting in a factory at 45 degrees and trying to make sure that we don't have enough rejections of T-shirts while you're printing, while my colleagues and classmates, and many of them went to top MBA institutes, would be in Bangalore or Delhi and attending conferences and in fancy offices, and saying that, thinking that my career is pretty much, is going to be a long and hard journey. and not thinking that what I was doing was probably building up a deep knowledge of the industry right from the beginning. And I think that really helped me. I went on to come back to Levi's as an assistant product manager and product manager to run the tops business because nobody wanted to join that role because Levi's was known as the denim giant, and everybody wanted to run the denim business. So that was also a learning opportunity. Went on to run Benetton, which was basically, again, Benetton, nobody wanted to join because it was really, really struggling. They had around 12 stores then, 2004, and pretty much making a huge loss. From there, we actually, we put together a fantastic team. Some of my team members are sitting here, Manish and Vineet. I think they all joined as part of my team. I think Kavi was there. So many of I'm very proud that from Benetton, I think we have 6, 7 CEOs who worked with me during those years, running really important, successful companies. I think that is truly a leadership success for me and the company. And we took that company at a scorching, pace of growth from 12 stores to 600 stores over a period of 8 years. I think that was really fantastic. We set the pace. And we actually rode the wave of retail at that point in time. And many, many interesting stories and incidents around that. But for me, I think the most important lesson which has been learned is the power of building a leadership team and the power of diversity. In fact, one of the things I starkly notice is the lack of diversity in the retail group. If you look at the room, very few women leaders. Hopefully, in 10 years' time, I think this room should be filled with more women leaders. I think Pushpa came on the stage. She's an outstanding woman leader here. We have many more. I think we mentioned about Falguni of Nykaa. I think we are very proud that these companies with women leaders are going to really lead the next wave of retail and business. So from that point of view, I think Jabong. I went on to Jabong because I wanted to do something in e-commerce. I think there were 2 options on the table at that time. I thought Global Fashion Group and Jabong would be interesting, more entrepreneurial. I've always wanted to work in an entrepreneurial company, and therefore, that is a choice I made. Unfortunately, 2016 was a hard year for raising investments. I think everybody knows that most companies were seeing a major amount of headwind, and no investment was happening. We managed to finally set the company up for a sale to the Flipkart group, and that went well. As luck would have it, I had a third tryst with Levi's, one at campus, one as a product manager in 1999, and then an opportunity to run South Asia for Levi's. And I think it has been a brilliant run for me. It has been great. The team there was outstanding. We managed to set the business up for success. We managed to get the Middle East market initially. That went very well. We managed to expand very fast there. And then we went on to run, started to run the Africa markets and bit of, we have Turkey and many other markets. So it has been a tremendous run from that point of view. And I was really, really surprised. And it was a pleasant surprise when I get a call to come and run the biggest market and the most complicated market in the world for apparel, which is the US and Canada market. I think it was unprecedented. Normally, the route is that you run Asia, Africa, emerging markets, then go to Singapore, run a few more developed markets, then go to Europe, and then you're chosen to run important market like US. It's almost 50% of the business. So I was telling Amitabh that there's no reason to celebrate because you are being called from a district-level cricket team to play and open the batting for the national team in the World Cup. So I hope you don't get out on a duck, and this is only the beginning. And I'm equally excited and nervous about taking up this role. And I hope that we'll get a chance to meet in a bit of a hurry in terms of the fact that I have to board a flight and take charge on 1st December. I'll be moving to San Francisco. And yeah, I think I'm really excited and also proud of the fact that the kind of headwinds we have faced, the kind of challenges we have faced in this market, in this country, it's not been easy. But I think when I talk to everybody after the post-pandemic, I think everybody is doing so well. The numbers are so exciting. I don't see that the next 2 decades, at least for India, are going to be outstanding. This is a market which is going to make it mark the way people talk about, China. I think, there'll be, I think each of the table in 10 years' time will be occupied with a $4 to $5 billion revenue. So I think that is a dream I wish to see in the next 5 to 10 years, and that is going to happen. So that's a bit of my journey, and yeah, I don't have much to share, Anish.
So let me start by asking, since you talked about the fact that Levi has actually turned you down on the campus interview to where you are about to go in a couple of short weeks. What's been the learning, both personally and as a professional in the retail industry? What are the 3 takeaways that you think you've experienced in all these trials and tribulations that you've been through?
I think the most important takeaway is to, believe that you're destined for greatness. You cannot be brought down by your current circumstances, and continue to think big. So just to give an example, and this is probably applicable if you're working for a global company. So Indians have made a mark in finance, they've made a mark in consulting and technology. So when you talk about Indian professionals, and I think consumer business also, it has been because of the history of the large scale of those businesses. If you look at Pepsi-Cola, or if you look at Coke, or Unilever, or P&G, there has been a history of large-scale development, and therefore, Indian professionals have made a mark, and they're globally respected. And I think it has taken 20, 30 years to break through that. And you see, if you think about Unilever, they have a reverse diversity problem because out of 25 leaders, 20 are Indian in terms of how they're driving it. If you look at technology companies, you have Googles and Apples, and always we had technology leaders, and Indians were respected there. I think one of the challenges has always been that in the fashion business, we don't have Indian brands on Fifth Avenue or Harajuku or global high streets, and therefore we are not seen as on the forefront of fashion. So that is something, you need to always think that whenever you are really thinking about how you come across, you need to be thinking like a global leader. You need to be aware of what is happening globally, and you need to be thinking large. So I think that is one of the lessons learned, that even when I was a product manager, I would still be really making sure that you are aware of what is happening. You need to be talking that language. You need to understand what are the key trends globally in terms of retail and fashion. So that really helped. Secondly, I thought that one of my key strengths was product. I built everything around product, and then you can build your commercial chops and your marketing chops and understanding the business. And my journey has been very interesting because I came as a merchant, then I got and ran a brand, I launched a brand, and then I scaled businesses. So I have been lucky in that sense that I got those opportunities where I could really learn the most complicated parts of the business apart from running a P&L, but always centered around the fact that I never forget that I came as a merchant and not as an MBA who started as a management trainee and then started running a P&L. So I think that proved to be a strength for me, and I think I've managed to really keep that core strength intact and built everything around that in terms of my learning and experience. And I think one of the biggest opportunities for me was to run a vertical e-commerce company. What I learned there was invaluable. And I think that has really helped me to really see how digital is going to play a bigger role, and to really be able to bring across my vision in terms of taking a DTC first route or a digital first route for a fashion company. So that has really helped me.
Sanjeev, let me just carry on with something that you said about the fact that we've got Indian leaders. There's you. We had Sandeep on the screen earlier. We've had Indra Nui running Pepsi. So it's not that we haven't seen Indian leaders on the global stage before. But as you said, when are we going to see Indian brands in fashion coming onto the high street, coming onto Fifth Avenue, coming into Saks Fifth Avenue, forget on Fifth Avenue.
Right.
What's holding us back? What's the next step? what do you think we should be doing over here with the people in this room to move to where you are?
I think the first thing, we need to have a global ambition. I think that is somewhere, the Indian market obviously is very, very large. Why can't a Fab India, be on, Fifth Avenue flagship, store or on Regent Street? It can be there. Obviously, I think we have visionary leaders who are basically running this. I look at, small countries like, Japan and Sweden, putting out, or Spain, putting out Zara and Inditex Group and H&M and Uniqlo, and making such a big impact. What really, what I'm not able to understand is the fact that not only do we have the most diverse textile and design, legacy and heritage, we understand this business much better than from a design side, from a sourcing side, from a consumer end. I think, running a business, a retail fashion business in the Indian market is very, very complicated and difficult. We have all the elements, but still we are not able to put out a global behemoth like many of these brands. I think what is, according to my little assessment, is that, we are really not thinking long term. We are not creating a DNA. We are still trying to get quick wins. If you look at many of the, local brands, they start off very well and then they try to be everything to everybody. So everything to everybody is a dangerous game to play. And, if you look at all the global brands, they started off with a very unique signature, a design signature, a brand philosophy, which then they went on, they stuck with that for 30 years before they went on to expand into other categories and basically become a global brand. We talk about Zara and H&M today. They were basically in a single city, in a few stores for 20 years before people got to know them outside the country. And I think they stuck to a single DNA, they stuck to a structure. They created something which was very, very unique. You can close your eyes and you look at somebody, there is no branding. If you look at Levi's jeans, a Levi's brand, 163 years of history and legacy, you can actually make out Levi's from a distance. You know what it stands for. You know that you get the best denims and best fits, everything. And one of the issues I see is trying to be everything to everybody. So formal wear, casual wear, kids wear, ethnic wear, from the same brand, footwear, accessories, everything without really having developed that. Unless we are able to scale and create an identity which is so unique that you can go global, that is not going to happen. And hopefully, I think there'll be brands in the next a decade or two who will be able to do that, stick to a very unique identity, which can be also very Indian, very centered around some of our strengths in textiles and the kind of design and heritage, and basically take it global. I think very much possible.
So let me bring it back to the personal, and I think that's also going to give some insight to everyone in the room on what they can do with their own businesses. You're moving, as you said, to a significantly larger stage, the largest market in the world for what you are doing. What are the fears? What's scaring Sanjeev Mohanty about what he's about to step into, and what is he going to do to overcome those fears and take that challenge on?
I think, the fear is obviously, when you're going to play on a big stage, a market. Actually, I've never worked outside India. I've always worked in India. It's not that I've worked in other markets and worked in a different culture. The fear is, how you will be accepted as a leader. Because at this stage, it is not about, you are anyway getting this role. You're running this role because you know your craft. It's not, anything different. It's going to be the same principles applied at a different scale. So if Shopper Stop is a, $20 million, $30 million account here, a JCPenney will tomorrow be a, 20x larger. That's the only difference. But the principles which you will use, in those markets will be different. What is important, I think, one of the learnings in the last 5, 6 years is how can you really carry the team along? Because you will have a team of stellar leaders. Some of my team members are, MBAs from Harvard, really accomplished leaders, young leaders who have really done so much. To be able to lead that kind of a team to be able to really carry along senior leaders, and you'll be now interacting with the J.C. Penney and Macy's CEO as your partners. They run multi-billion-dollar businesses. You're coming from a country where you don't know the cultural nuances. So I need to learn all of that very, very fast. You need to learn, and you're in the most advanced market in the world in terms of, whatever, retail technology is happening, fashion trends which are evolving, those are evolving very, very fast. And the scale is massive. So if you make a mistake here, it gets amplified to maybe $2 million. If you make a mistake in the US market, it gets amplified to $30–40 million. So obviously the fear of making a mistake is going to be there. But I think I have learned that once you are in a leadership position and you have an outstanding team, I think those mistakes don't happen. You need to listen listen to your team. You need to listen to your gut. You need to look at data. So all of these things are practiced. So honestly, I'm feeling good about it. I'm really thinking that this is going to be one hell of a ride, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm already strapped up and ready to go.
Okay, Sanjeev, one final question from me before I take a couple of quick ones from the audience, because I know a lot of people have questions for you. You talked about the team. One of the things that we've always had in India, all the times that you and I have shared stages up over there, we've got the cult of the individual over here. We've got the cult of the individual. You've got that one business leader whom everyone recognizes, whether it was Sanjeev Mohanty at Benetton back when we first met, or Levi's, or Kishore Biyani. It's that one man whom everyone reaches out to when they step off the stage at the Images Retail Forum and want to talk to. You talked about the team, and you talked about the members of your team that are here, Vineet over there. How important is that for Indian businesses to understand that it's not about the CEO, it's not about the chairman, it's not about the owner and founder. It's about everything that you build below you that lets you personally rise on top, as you've done.
I think I'll be very authentic about this. Honestly, the way things work in India, there's so much of talent available, and there is so much of internal competition. One of the bad habits which I also inculcated was during the early part, because when you're early success, it gets to your head and you think that it is about yourself. And I made that mistake also. You try to focus a lot, because also as a young leader, there might be an environment where you're a little insecure about your position, because I became CEO at 34. And there's so many people who are naysayers, want to pull you down, everybody watching you under a microscope. I think one of the lessons learned in the last 5–6 years is that, great leadership is about shrinking your presence to a level where the team's presence is amplified. You need to be so sure about your leadership that you don't need to be in the focus. And I think that has changed for me dramatically. And the more I've tried to do that now, I think this has happened, this transformation. I worked with a coach who helped me do that, to make that transition. Always being, one of the things he taught me was that if you are in a meeting, in a global meeting, if you can stay silent and not speak a single word in a group of SVPs and MDs sitting, it'll be a big success. Don't speak at all. I'm giving you a task that in 5 global board level meetings, you will not open your mouth. Because we are taught in school that you have to first to jump at an answer. You are the first to be proving that you're the smartest. I think that is something from great leaders. I've observed them, and some of my leaders, like Chip Berg, who's a president, when he speaks a line, it has an impact. He allows the team to really make the calls. He is never in the forefront. He's always on the background. I think that is something which I've taken away as a big lesson, that it is all about your people, and it is not about the CEO. I think, and that lesson, it's good that I've learned it in a smaller business. I'm going to carry that lesson to my global team. And, I hope that, we will get more evolved and outstanding leaders from my team within Levi's and going out. And that is going to be my biggest learning and lesson of leadership, that it is always about the team. If you can make your team win, you can make them look good. And if you can stand behind them when a mistake happens and absorb that, I think that is observed by the board, that is observed by everybody around you. You don't need to be the smartest in the room to be always answering. You don't need to go to the chairman saying that this is my idea. Because I think the leaders who are at that level, they understand and observe everything. Otherwise, there is no chance sitting in India that you'll be called for such a big role, because there are stellar leaders around the company who are working in the headquarters, and there are stellar leaders outside for Levi's to choose from. There are billions of brands, millions of brands, and billion-dollar brands. So I think this has reinforced the fact that you need to be a servant leader and serve the team and serve the purpose of the company. I think that is more important.
Perfect answer. Are you open to taking a couple of questions from the audience?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah?
Sure.
Anyone?
No questions.
Last chance. He's getting on a plane. All his bags are packed. He's ready to go.
Thank you so much for this
Sanjeev.
opportunity.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it. Thanks.